Okay, Jim, 13th floor, a little bit of deja vu. We were there on opening night last year, opening night this year. How did this year compare to last?
I think this year definitely was a marked improvement over the previous year. Last year we were also there opening night. A little bit of kinks to work out. The way to get in, for one thing, set us back a bit. And each room, as I recall, while there were some standouts, nothing really jumped out at me in terms of like an absolute wow set piece. However, this year, outstanding. I have to say the sets were, in fact, so elaborate that in our group we found ourselves at times, somewhat lagging because it was so enormous to take in. There were some just incredible highlights. There were almost immediately as you're walking through, there's a bell tower set piece with the actual bell almost at eye level that was just, absolutely astonishing in terms of detail and creativity. There were other rooms that were, borrowed somewhat from last year, but just enhanced as well. I just think the level of detail in walking through, for example, a room with antiques that were it was just piled, absolutely piled with antiques. A bishop character, which was a highlight from last year, made a reappearance. And you were just, like I say, completely, each set piece, you seldom see this in a haunt. While unique in its own regard, the thread would actually follow through. So if you walk through a school scene, that actual thread followed into a next scene, and you didn't feel disjointed. Like it was just, here's just a psychotic ward. Here's a house. Here's a room. There was actually a very well thought out thread throughout in each location, and it was just, like I say, an incredible upgrade over the previous year's haunts. In fact, I would go as far as to say is really one of the best haunts I've been a part of. And then, furthermore, the characters, very well thought out, very engaged in their roles. A wolf man that actually was jumping from roof to roof, howling. You had a nurse who would pause, and then have this jittery effect, and just waiting for it again and keeping you off balance, and then she would sort of reanimate herself. Just very well thought out. Enough characters to have complete the scene, but not where you felt like it was just over the top and tripping over character actors. So between the set pieces and the acting job, both superlative, and like I say, for myself anyway, the first true 5-star chainsaw rating, and really look forward in the future as well to just a wonderful haunting experience.
One of the things about 13th floor, definitely, it proves one of the things that we do at Horror Tours, and that is we always want to give a haunt more than one chance. 13th floor was new last year, and as you may or may not know, it's part of a chain of haunts around the country, sort of a haunt in a box. They bring a haunt to a certain city, and it's run, and it's under the same name in different cities. And sometimes those can be somewhat impersonal, hyped a lot, not necessarily fantastic. And last year sort of felt that way. It was sort of half finished. It had half sets from a previous haunt that was in the same location. And it seemed like a lot of money for a very short haunt. It was about 12 or 13 minutes last year, and it was partially with sets used from a previous haunt. So we thought, does it really live up to the hype? Not necessarily. But we always give haunts a second chance because they can change from year to year. It's happened many times, and it happened this year to us because 13th floor this year was outstanding. There was so much to see in the 13th floor. As Jim mentioned, the sets had a continuity to them. For example, if you were approaching a church, you didn't just walk into a square room that was decorated like a church on the inside of the room. No, there was an entire church facade, for example, with giant doors that you walk through, and you see the abandoned church with walls that caved in and parts of the ceilings that caved in. And then when you walked back outside, you were on the outside of the church again. There was one scene where a portion of the church, for example, had fallen down, and the concrete of the church was hanging over, and there was a window at an angle, and there was an actor behind that window coming out at you. So you were immersed in the experience whatever it was supposed to be, it always was, whatever the set was. And there were elaborate house sets in there, and foyer sets, and crypt sets. There were so many things I could go on and on about. But it was really, if you like set design, this is a place to go. Another thing I'd like to mention is a lot of the rooms had roofs on them. You don't see roofs if you're walking through a set that's put up. Normally it's the walls, and if you look up, you see the ventilation system, or you see whatever part of the warehouse you're in. Here, they actually had roofs, not even complete roofs. They were partially fallen in. And yet a center of it would have a big chandelier in the center, for example. It's amazing. Just outstanding stuff. The actors, more actors than last year, more varied than last year. Some of them were the pop out and scare you type. Some of them were crazy, and they were really good. And to mention actors, I will say definitely what was cool about 13th Floor is that the actors came out of odd locations. They'd crawl out from under a table, pop out from under a hole. They'd be above you laughing at you, looking at you from a window that's 2 floors up and 15 feet away from you, or something like that. The wolf characters came running out into a street scene and jumped on the scenery and started howling and things like that. So it was clever. Yes, the scares may have been somewhat standard. There were zombies, there were cackling laughter and things like that, but they came out of weird places. Cabinets would open up and they would be there on the floor. Where there was a morgue scene where one of the actresses was in one of the chambers for the bodies at the bottom, not at eye level, but underneath. So she came out. Special mentions have to go to the Bishop. Bishop was one of our favorites from last year. He was great this year too. Great, and it's a little scene where he's standing in a church area, and you see him in the corner, and there he is, and he looks crazy as it is, but you have to go right past him. You think you're looking at him from a distance, but no, you have to go around him, and there he is again, and he was great. The nurse in the morgue scene, who stopped and started, as Jim mentioned, and twitched a lot, fantastic. We've seen similar in other haunts, but she was really, really good. Special mention to the clown in the redneck shack in the middle. He was hilarious. And a nice attention to set detail, just to give you an example. In that area, it was a clown makeup area. They had famous paintings, prints of famous paintings on the wall. And every single one of them had a clown face on them. And it was subtly done. It blended into the paintings. So you actually had to look at the paintings. And how often do you stop to look at the background details in a haunt when you're going through? Amazing attention to detail. It was great. Marked it out. And the guy who played the big redneck who was on the porch of the redneck shack, he was hilarious too. He cackled with insane laughter, and when he let us in the door, he kept following us through the window and different places and cackling. He was great too. So outstanding. It was also somewhat longer this year, probably because we lingered and looked at all the great sets. But 13th Floor, in my mind, has redeemed itself. Easily 5 chainsaws this year. It did live up to the hype this time around. We really enjoyed it.
Excellent, excellent, very good.
Okay, so here's a haunt that we had to drag you kicking and screaming to this year, because last year was quite the disappointment for you especially, and that's 13th Floor.
Yes.
So how does 2015 compare with 2014?
Well, I was going in with low expectations. I was thinking, okay, yeah, I kind of got dragged. There's a really good restaurant, Italian restaurant over there. I thought, okay, I'm gonna, at least we'll go get something good to eat, and if it's not that good, oh well, at least we got good food out of it. But I'm very happy to say that this one blew me away this year. 13th Floor, yes, I wasn't a fan last year. You had some good sets last year, but it just didn't have a whole lot. I mean, it wasn't anything that I was that impressed with, except for a couple of rooms and a few of the actors last year. But this year, I mean, from the minute you even got up, they have these gates with these gargoyles, and everything's moving even before you go in. The sets are absolutely fantastic. I felt like I was in a Hollywood movie. That's how good this was. And not only that, with these incredible sets with incredible detail that you just noticed everything. The actors were great too. I mean, they had actors everywhere, where last year it was lacking. It didn't seem they had that many people. And this year you had at least 2 in each section. One would be there, and then another one would shock you. You'd see one, they kind of just got your attention, and then boom, someone else would jump out. There was a room or a couple scenes with just werewolves, like a whole area for that. Very impressive. Great makeup, great masks. The characters that they did, I mean, the wolves were howling. I was completely impressed with this. It just continued to get better and better as I was going through. they had some of the great scenes from last year, but they even added more. I absolutely love this. This haunt, to me, I know it's only like the second time we've gone out this year so far for 2015, but this is already for me a Hall of Famer. If I have to pick them, I know this one's going to stay there for the rest of the season. It's going to be on my Hall of Fame list. So I know definitely 5 chainsaws, but I'm almost ready to push it to the 6 already. I know it's too early in the season, but definitely I'm thinking Hall of Fame for 13th Floor. Didn't expect it. Wasn't thinking, I don't know about this, but completely surprised and just absolutely loved it. So if you can get out there, get out there. That's one of the best ones so far. If I judged it from last year, yes, it would definitely be. If it was last year, I wasn't impressed. I don't think I gave it a very high rating, but this year, yes, definitely, it's probably a future Hall of Famer.